We are following breaking news out of downtown Portland this morning. Several people are hurt after a mass shooting in downtown. This happened near Southwest Oak Street and 3rd Avenue. Police tell us at least 8 people were injured. 8, and at least one of them suffered life-threatening wounds. Fox 12's Marilyn Deutsch is there live at the scene this morning for us. And Marilyn, what's happening there now?
Yeah, as you can see, police remain on the scene. Is on Southwest 3rd between Oak and Washington. And by the way, the Central Precinct officers who arrived didn't have far to go because they're...
This shooting occurred on Harvey Milk Street. And you guys may be familiar with the movie Harvey called Milk. It's about the famous San Francisco lawmaker who was gunned down by another San Francisco city councilman over some dispute they had. And he wanted to also kill good old Willie Brown from Kamala Harris fame. But for some reason, I think Willie got away by the skin of his teeth. Think about it. If he would have got Willie, we wouldn't have to worry about Kamala would have never climbed up the ladder. But anyway, that's a long rabbit hole. Anyway, we see this a lot in the stand. Martin Luther King Avenue, Medgar Evers Way, Malcolm X Boulevard, centers of crime and death. And it's really interesting that this street, Harvey Milk Street, is also becoming a very violent place in Portland. And you know who did this. I'll give you a hint. They make up 7% of Portland's population. They asked for these streets to be named after these woke figures, and then they just turn them into war zones.
On Southwest 3rd between Oak and Washington. And by the way, the Central Precinct officers who arrived didn't have far to go because the precinct is just down the street from where this shooting occurred. The bulk of this investigation happening between Harvey Milk and Washington. It seems to be focusing on the area in front of the food trucks on the east side of Southwest 3rd. Officers got calls of people being shot shortly after 2 a.m. When they arrived, they found those 8 victims. They applied life-saving measures and secured the area for arriving paramedics.
Do you think any of the families of those 8 people are going to hold a press conference with their lawyer and talk about what a great job the cops did saving their lives after they were shot by some lunatic who was probably mad because somebody bumped him or somebody looked at him funny or he saw somebody he had an issue with, so he just started spraying sporadically? We got to start calling this out. Why are no press conferences when cops come to the scene and save these people's lives? 8 people shot, none dead. Because cops came to the scene and the media started giving life-saving measures. No press conference, nothing. Not even a note like, I don't want to get in trouble with the woke crowd, but I just wanted you guys to know that I really thank you for saving my relative. Nothing.
When they arrived, they found those 8 victims. They applied life-saving measures and secured the area for arriving paramedics. 8 people, as we said, all taken by ambulances to local hospitals. 1 has life-threatening injuries, and we do not have an update yet on their condition. We can tell you that the victims were both male and female. Now, I had a chance to talk to someone who was here at the time. He was in his car, heard the gunfire, and ducked for cover. He said it was a very scary situation. There are also a number of businesses within this perimeter that police set up. About 45 minutes ago, the owner of the outdoor store arrived for the day, and we had a chance to talk to him.
Yeah, kind of shocked. It looks like a war. Seriously, it looks like a war over there. It has only been the last couple of years that it's gotten this chaotic.
It's only been the last couple of years that it's got this chaotic. Let me do a little math. 2021, 2020. That's a couple. 2. No. Duh. And you know this guy was woke. You know he was with it. He was reluctantly with it. He was one of those guys that didn't have enough courage to not be with it. He just got swept along in the current, in the tsunami of BLM and anti-police. And he had his reservations about it, but he didn't have the kahunas to speak up against it. And I don't feel sorry for him. Would you feel sorry for him if a mob was attacking someone? And he was right there? He joined in and kicked. And then the mobs dispersed and the police came and did an investigation. He was like, well, you know what? I just was there and I had to get a couple little kicks, and I really didn't kick them. I just kind of nudged them with my foot so that the mob wouldn't think that I was, against, so they wouldn't turn on me. Well, listen, you're still going to jail. So, I don't feel sorry for this guy.
Yeah, kind of shocked. It looks like a war. Seriously, it looks like a war over there. It has only been the last couple of years that it's gotten this chaotic.
Police say they may have to keep this area of Southwest 3rd closed until 11 this morning as they continue this investigation. Now, at this point, we don't know if this was a random shooting or anyone was being targeted. We don't know if an argument preceded the shooting or what. Earlier this week, you may remember, we reported that there have been more than 600 shootings in the city so far. Now, this latest mass shooting in downtown Portland just adds to the total. Again, 8 people shot in downtown Portland earlier this morning. Reporting live, Marilyn Deutsch. Good day.
Okay, guys. Breaking. A mass shooting in downtown Portland victimized at least 8 people. Police have no information about the suspect or suspects. What does that let you know about the suspects? What does that let you know about the suspects? There's no information about the suspects. Have you ever seen a mass shooting done by a glacier glider where they told you they didn't have any suspects? Where the guy wasn't killed on the scene. They didn't have his pictures blared everywhere in an APB all points bulletin. Bolo, be on the lookout everywhere for him. Or he committed suicide. We've never seen that in this country. But you know what we've seen? We see every day in this country? A mass shooting where there's no suspects. Nobody knows nothing. It just happened. And if you don't believe me, subscribe to this channel. If you don't believe me, subscribe to this channel. Every day in the stand, there's a mass shooting and nobody knows nothing. One of the victims in the mass shooting in downtown Portland has died. This person says, "That breaks my heart. I lived in Portland most of my life, but it finally became unlivable." Wow. I miss the spirit of Portland. the food, the culture. It's a asshole now. Wow. Woo! And these people are protesting every night, destroying stuff, talking about these white liberals up there destroying the city, fighting with police every night in the name of Black Lives Matter. Meanwhile, in the same city, black people are gunning each other down like it's Detroit, like it's Baton Rouge, like it's New Orleans, like it's Miami, like it's Atlanta, like it's Chicago. On a smaller scale because they're only 7% of the population. But still, to the point where it's unlivable. This guy says, I lived in Portland for a few years, and it was very safe and peaceful city. Cycling from neighborhood to neighborhood late in the evening to discover different little restaurants was fantastic. This great city seems to have changed so much. How sad. You see how BLM and Antifa destroy everything? Trying to prevent one career criminal from getting shot while fighting with cops. They still don't have a case in Portland that went national. An egregious case of police violence in this whole Blackistanian spring. They had to go to Kenosha. Minneapolis and Atlanta to find their poster children for their movement. They couldn't even find one in their own city. Yet it's this huge problem.
And turn now to our big story. Over the past year or so, we've spent a lot of time talking about police transparency and accountability. And we have told you, and you know this probably well, Portland is the only major city in the country where officers don't wear body cameras while they're doing their job. Well, now, as part of this ongoing back and forth between the Justice Department and Portland Police, the feds say it's time to start wearing them. Here's Kyla Boshi.
The U.S. Department of Justice is pushing Portland police to get body cams. It's one of several changes that Department of Justice lawyers want the city to make in order to satisfy a 2014 settlement agreement over police reform.
The city should implement body-worn cameras for all officers.
On Thursday, a civil rights attorney from the Department of Justice spoke with a community group and explained the value of body cams, illustrated by the June 24 shooting of Michael Ray Townsend at a North Portland motel.
That right there is a case study in just how useful a body-worn camera system can be.
Portland police officers didn't have body-worn cameras, but surveillance footage captured the deadly shooting and helped show the public, police, and the Department of Justice exactly what happened.
And what happened was this white maniac attacked the cops and forced this black cop to shoot him. So this wasn't going to go viral anyway. But this is what they're talking about up there. You heard that 600 shootings this year. Most of them, about 450 to 500 of them, from 7% of their population. And then they got a lot of bad hombres up there too. They do a lot of shootings too. But wow, and they're talking about body cams. Okay, fine. Guess.
Southeast D.C. last night. That deadly shooting happened just after 11 p.m. at the intersection of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X Avenues.
At the intersection of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X Avenue.
Southeast D.C. last night. That deadly shooting happened just after 11 p.m. at the intersection of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X Avenues.
You cannot make this stuff up. I know right where that's at. Exactly where that's at. Right by the Popeyes. It was a shooting over there the other day. But it gets, listen, that's Southeast, man. Southeast with an F. We done turned the corner of Malcolm X. And if you go there, and if you drive through there or you walk through there, you're gonna see. It's rough around there, Jack. It just feels like it's rough. You gonna feel it. Yeah. The corner of Malcolm X Avenue and Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue.
Southeast D.C. last night. That deadly shooting happened just after 11 p.m. at the intersection of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X Avenues. Fox 5's Aisha Khan is live at police headquarters this morning with more on the investigation. Good morning, Aisha.
Good morning to you, Maureen. Yeah.
Even the news reporters are starting to be like, yo, man, this whole narrative we getting from the mainstream media that these people are victims and it's institutions and the only thing going on, the only story is police and Capitol rioters. You think this woman who's a reporter in Washington, D.C. thinks that the Capitol riots were violent when not one person had a gun? Not one person had a gun. Not one. All the cops had guns. None of the rioters had guns. Yet they were going to take over the country just by defeating the Capitol Police. Because all the other police and the army and everything was just going to be like, oh, yep, they the president's now. With no guns.
More on the investigation. Good morning, Aisha.
Good morning to you, Maureen. Yeah, this is such a tragic story. You know, police say a 6-year-old girl, who was among 6 people who was shot, and she died at the hospital. 5 other people were also shot. There are adults, 3 men, 2 women who were taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police are not saying a whole lot about this case as far as there's a motive, if this was targeted. All they've been able to say so far is that they're looking for a dark-colored vehicle. Here's the assistant chief talking last night. Take a listen.
There's too much gun violence still perpetuating in this city, and too many children are being harmed, innocent children, by gunfire. So please help the police department, our detectives, bring those people to justice and help bring some closure to the families.
Again, Maureen, a lot is unclear about this deadly shooting, especially because it involves a child. So clearly, this investigation is ongoing. Police are asking anyone with information, what they may have seen or heard, to contact them. Back over to you.
No suspects. No suspects. What does that tell you about the suspects? We never had a mass shooting since mass shootings became a thing, and after Columbine or whatever, you haven't had one where a white guy's done one and he just got, and he ain't dead, he ain't committed suicide, or he ain't in jail. You've had probably 10 this week in Blackistan. But they just don't know nothing. And I'm only talking about mass shootings. I'm not talking about one person gets shot, 2 people get shot, 3 people get shot. There's hundreds of those where they don't have any suspects. And we the victims. That's the national narrative. We the victims. The criminal justice system. We don't even get into the criminal justice system. A 6-year-old girl was killed in a mass shooting in D.C. overnight, and I've barely heard a peep about it. Well, let me explain this to you, brother. My good brother. This happens all the time. This happens in Baltimore all the time, every other day. Happens in Richmond every week. Maybe he lives in D.C. and listen, man. If you want to hear about this stuff, know what's going on in D.C., subscribe to Alan Henney, Kilmo News, and DC Real Time News. Now, don't put your notifications on because something happens almost every 5 minutes. So you got to be careful about putting your notifications on. Because it's boop, 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 zip, 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 zip. Put it on a ringtone that's not annoying. Put it on, like, I don't know. But subscribe to those channels. You'll find out. You'll hear about it. It's people reporting on this stuff. It's just not going to be on CNN or MSNBC. It's no big deal that 6 people got shot and the 6-year-old was one of them and she died in the streets like a dog. That's not a big story, man. In the Stand, that happens all the time. So he goes on to say, we can't be content with urban violence like this is normal. It isn't. It's traumatic and traumatized people are left to cope. As we just move right along, it's sickening. Malcolm X and MLK rolling over in their graves, man. And I guarantee you one thing they won't do. They won't go down there and paint Black Lives Matter in big yellow letters all the way down Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. I guarantee you they won't do that like they did downtown in front of the White House. Because, you know, Trump is such a threat to black people that you had to paint Black Lives Matter in front of the White House when he was president, you know? I don't remember this many black people getting killed in 2017, 18, 19. It wasn't until Black Lives Matter and the Democrats tried to create all this chaos so they could get the White House back. All these black people started dying even more than they were before, which was already at a terrible rate. But now it's crazy. Want to see the gun memorial in D.C.? You want to see what the gun memorial look like? Oh, don't get it twisted. The way he died, this one, he was out to dinner with his wife. And some homeboys parked the car around the corner, got out and went to shoot at their ops, sprayed the block, and he got killed. Headed to his car from a restaurant. Broad night, like busy, bustling strip of restaurants and bistros and cafes by some homeboys. And that's the only white guy you probably gonna see on there. Dang, they killed my man Morris Chestnut. Morris Chestnut looking dude, man. Kingman Park. Damn. You remember her? I did the video on her. She was killed sitting in the car. Randomly, some dude just came up, sprayed it. No pretense, nothing. Just sprayed the car, killed her. All these dudes, man. All these brothers, man. I did the video on her, the grandmother. 65-year-old. The dudes came, sprayed the block. She got killed. This happens every day, Jack. Seeing all these faces, man. God, these are people. Cousins and brothers and uncles. Fathers. This city got just as many black people as white people, the same amount. And what about that black and brown coalition we always hear about? We not the same as brown people. Brown people don't have the same issues we have. You can go anywhere. You can even go to LA. And they don't have the same murder rate as the blacks there. New York. All these places with these large Hispanic populations, whether it be Mexicans or Puerto Ricans. Look at this. Every person on here has been killed by a black person. None of these people was killed by some white supremacist, a Proud Boy, or a Capitol rider. None of them. And all they talk about on the goddamn news every day in D.C. is goddamn Capitol riots and shit. Look at this. Where's the black and brown coalition? Stop Asian hate. Where all the Asians that are supposed to be getting? It's only black people. It's it. I remember when this happened. These two Hispanics right here. I remember when that happened. It was somewhere off of Georgia, uptown. I remember that was in the paper. And I was shocked because I just assumed it was two brothers. But when I found out it was two, I was like, wow. Look at this. And they painted Black Lives Matter in big yellow letters outside the White House. They ain't painted on none of these streets where none of these people got killed at. All of them are black. And if you walk through D.C., you see something, you be like, damn, look, a lot of white people, man. Y'all can't even call this Chocolate City no more. You can't even call it Chocolate City no more. God. Okay, there go an Asian guy right there. June 15th, 2019.